Welcome back. Today we're diving into one of the most controversial, emotional, and brutally honest conversations in football history. Every NFL franchise has a quarterback they wish fans would forget, a season they wish never happened, and a name that still makes supporters cringe when it's mentioned. While football is built on teamwork, leadership, and strategy, nothing defines success or failure more than the quarterback position. The role that carries the hopes of millions of fans and the weight of billion-dollar organizations. The position where legends are immortalized and mistakes are remembered forever. Today, we're not talking about the greatest quarterbacks. We're stepping into the uncomfortable history of every NFL team's worst quarterback. Players who struggled under pressure, failed to meet expectations, or simply became symbols of seasons gone wrong. Because behind every dynasty run, playoff collapse, and rebuilding era is usually a quarterback story that explains everything. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals, a franchise that has seen decades of instability at quarterback. One of the most painful experiments came during the Ryan Lindley era, when offensive production nearly disappeared entirely, creating one of the lowest performing passing stretches in modern playoff history, showing how quickly a team's momentum can collapse when the quarterback position fails. Moving to the Atlanta Falcons, fans remember the Joey Harrington period as a time when promise never turned into production. Interceptions outweighed touchdowns, and the offense never found rhythm, turning what was supposed to be a career revival into a cautionary tale about unrealized potential. In Baltimore, a team known for defense and discipline, the Kyle Boller years remain difficult to revisit for fans who watched strong rosters struggle because the passing game never developed into a reliable weapon, proving that even elite defenses cannot compensate forever for inconsistent quarterback play. In Buffalo, Nathan Peterman became infamous for a single performance that spiraled into legend for the wrong reasons, reminding fans how unforgiving professional football can be when confidence collapses mid-game. The Carolina Panthers experienced quarterback struggles during the Jimmy Clausen season. Offensive drives stalled repeatedly and victories became rare, highlighting how difficult it is for a rookie quarterback to survive behind a struggling offensive line without veteran support. Chicago Bears fans who have witnessed decades of quarterback frustration often remember the Todd Collins experiment as one of the most ineffective short-term solutions, symbolizing the franchise's long search for a true passing identity. In Cincinnati, Akili Smith's tenure stands as one of the most disappointing draft outcomes in team history, a reminder that scouting, development, and timing must align perfectly for a quarterback to succeed in the NFL. Cleveland, a franchise filled with quarterback turnover, saw Deshaun Kaiser endure a winless season as a starter, demonstrating how organizational instability can overwhelm even talented young players. Dallas, a franchise defined by quarterback legends, experienced a difficult stretch with Quincy Carter, whose inconsistency kept the team from regaining its former dominance. In Denver, Paxton Lynch's brief and underwhelming run became symbolic of a failed succession plan, following an era of championship expectations. Detroit fans remember the brief Don Orlovsky stretch not only for losses, but for one of the most unfortunate on-field mistakes ever captured on camera, a moment replayed endlessly in NFL history. Green Bay, known for generational quarterback success, rarely faces this conversation, but the Scott Tolzien period exposed how thin the margin can be between stability and chaos when injuries strike. Houston's quarterback struggles during the David Carr era reflected not only individual challenges, but also expansion team growing pains, where constant pressure and sacks stalled development before it could fully begin. In Indianapolis, the Curtis Painter season became a stark contrast to the elite quarterback play fans had grown accustomed to, revealing how dramatically a team's identity can change without leadership under center. Jacksonville's Blaine Gabbert era showed how confidence can erode when early career struggles meet constant coaching changes. Kansas City's Brodie Croyle years came during a transitional period, before the franchise found long-term stability, illustrating how rebuilding phases often pass through difficult quarterback chapters. The Las Vegas Raiders experienced offensive struggles during Jamarcus Russell's tenure, one of the most discussed draft disappointments. In league history, where expectations and reality never aligned, the Los Angeles Chargers saw difficult moments with Ryan Leaf, whose story became one of the most well-known examples of talent overshadowed by pressure and off-field struggles. For the Los Angeles Rams, the Sam Bradford injury cycles created seasons where the offense never found continuity, leaving fans wondering what could have been. Miami's quarterback carousel included the Cleo Lemon stretch, a period defined by inconsistency and narrow losses. Minnesota experienced a challenging chapter with Christian Ponder, whose tenure coincided with offensive limitations that kept the team from reaching its potential. In New England, a franchise associated with quarterback excellence, the brief Hugh Millen appearances in earlier decades reflected how different the organization once looked before long-term stability arrived. New Orleans endured difficult seasons during the Billy Joe Tolliver era, when defensive efforts were often wasted by offensive struggles. The New York Giants experienced quarterback frustration during the Dave Brown years, while the New York Jets have had multiple candidates for this list, with the Browning-Nagel period often remembered as particularly difficult. For fans hoping for long-term leadership, Philadelphia's struggles included the Bobby Hoying collapse after early promise, showing how quickly defensive adjustments can change a quarterback's trajectory. Pittsburgh, rarely unstable at quarterback, experienced a difficult stretch with Mark Malone during a transitional era. San Francisco, despite its historic quarterback legacy, endured offensive struggles during the Cody Pickett appearances in injury-plagued seasons. Seattle's difficult years included the Dan McGuire experiment, another example of draft expectations not translating to NFL success. Tampa Bay has experienced multiple quarterback rebuilds, but the Josh Freeman collapse after early success stands out as one of the most dramatic declines. Tennessee's Rusty Smith appearances came during a rebuilding phase, where offensive identity was still forming. Washington's quarterback struggles have been numerous, with Heath Schuler's tenure often remembered as a major disappointment relative to expectations. And when you step back and look across the entire league, a pattern begins to emerge. The worst quarterback in a franchise's memory is rarely just about one player. It's about timing, coaching, roster construction, injuries, confidence, and pressure all colliding at once. Because the NFL is not a league where quarterbacks develop slowly without consequences. It's a results-driven environment where performance defines legacy almost immediately. And sometimes players drafted to become heroes instead become symbols of rebuilding years. What makes this conversation fascinating is that many of these quarterbacks were not failures in talent, but victims of circumstance, placed into situations where development was rushed, protection was weak, coaching systems changed too quickly, or expectations were simply too high, reminding us that success in professional football depends on environment just as much as ability. For every legendary quarterback story, there are dozens of forgotten ones. Players who carried the pressure of franchises searching for identity. Players who became transitional names between eras of success. And that's the hidden truth about the NFL quarterback position. History remembers greatness, but franchises remember struggles, because those difficult seasons often shape the decisions that lead to future championships. Better scouting, smarter coaching hires, and stronger development systems, turning past mistakes into future lessons. So when fans talk about the worst quarterback in their team's history, they're not just talking about statistics or losses. They're remembering a time when hope felt distant, when Sundays were frustrating, and when rebuilding felt endless. And in a strange way, those memories make the eventual success stories even more meaningful. Because in football, failure is often the foundation of greatness. And that's what makes the quarterback position the most dramatic role in sports. One player can define an era for better or worse,